on nothing more but nothing less than this. It is a vision as simple as it is difficult, and as difficult as it is, and because it is, terrifying. So everything about ordinary social life depends on us applying the same words in the same cases. When you get down to basics, we have to agree on when you apply the word people to the same things, when you apply the word square to the same things, all these simple basic cases, when one number comes after another. We've got to agree on all those things for ordinary social life to be possible. But if you ask, what is doing it? How come we're all managing to keep together? There is nothing that is doing that. The reason it's terrifying is that when you grasp what's going on here, you see that there is nothing holding us together. At any point, we could all just drift apart, and there'll be no way of pulling us together then. This scenario, where we all just drifted apart and went on in quite different ways. You say that's white, and I say that's not white, and we just can't find a basis from which to resolve the disagreement. That's always possible. It doesn't, in fact, happen. By and large, we generally do share our reactions, share our word classifications, but nothing makes that happen. That's a vision that is as difficult as it is, because it is terrifying. That's Wittgenstein's main point. You got that? Okay, pretty good. We can pack up. The thing is, if this is the right picture, then there's a question. How come there is such a thing as going right or wrong in your use of words? And after all, if all that's holding us together is that we apply the word in just the same cases, well, if when I say that's a cube, I apply that to a particular thing, then what makes it right or wrong when you say that's a cube? That's a basic question we've been trying to address all through this class, right? How come there is such a thing as getting it right or wrong when you apply a term to an object? Well, go on, class. We've been doing this for, I don't know, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. How come there is such a thing as getting it right or wrong when you say that's a cube? If you thought you got an image of a cube in your head, and that's what fixes the meaning of the word, that is like the sense of the word, that is the meaning of the word, then you know what it is for it to be right or wrong, right? That's a cube is true if the object matches your image. It's not true if it doesn't match your image. But what we just did was we threw out the image. We threw out anything you'd call the meaning of the term in general. So when you say that's a cube, it's not that that's true if the object matches some image you have. So what does it take for it to be true? How can there be such a thing as it being true? How can there be standards of right and wrong? Yeah. Just agreement. Yeah. It's hard to see what else it could be, isn't it? I mean, we don't have the standard, right? The image, the general formula. You think, well, we've got a rule book in the back of our minds, and that's what's going to mean that there's such a thing as going right or wrong. Then if we throw that out, we've thrown out any rule. And Wittgenstein seems to be saying something like what you just said. The agreement with other people is the key thing. And he certainly thinks this, that when you look for an account of what it is to go right or wrong in your use of a word, it's a mistake to look deep into the psychology of the individual, to look deep into the mind, as if somewhere in the mind there are the standards of right and wrong. That's the thing we just threw out. There aren't any standards of right and wrong set out in the mind. And this is where this thing about custom or practice comes in. And it's agreement with each other has got something to do with it. It's not obvious it's just the same thing, but it's something like you've got to look at the way other people use the sign. You can't make sense of the idea that someone is going right or wrong in their use of a sign on their own. It's only insofar as an individual's use of a sign is located in a social practice or custom of using signs that it makes sense to talk about truth or falsity. But when you say agreement, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but how would it go that it's right if you agree with everybody else and wrong if you don't? Yeah, so we threw away right and wrong. Yeah, that's pretty radical. Yeah? You can say it's right, you're right if you agree, and you're wrong if you disagree. Very good, yeah. Yeah. So can you do that? Right. That would be right. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. Everything that you guys have said is getting this effect, right? That you're not going to look into the mind of the individual. The natural idea is to have that there's a contract you have for the use of a word. You say, henceforth, I shall bind myself to use the word blue only for things that look like this, and then you've got something in your head. Yeah, there is a contract, and then getting it right is keeping faith with that contract. Yeah? And you say, forget that about the contract in the head. There is only something like this question. Are you using it the same in the same context, applying it to the same objects as everyone else does? That's all that right or wrong can come to. I mean, this is really a puzzling view, mind you, because we're all taught that it can be a very brave and courageous stand to say it isn't right when everybody else is saying it is right. It's fine. You see what I mean? There can be one person against the rest, and that one person can be getting it right, and everyone else can be getting it wrong. Isn't that what happened with Galileo when he said it moves, the Earth moves, and the rest of them were all wrong? If this approach is right in terms of agreement, then the right thing to say to Galileo would have been, you don't understand. We all think it doesn't move. So that's the end of the story. That's what it is to be wrong, is to be disagreeing with everybody else. There is no other standard of right or wrong. So it's kind of a surprising view, but that gets the effect of saying we're going to look at the custom or practice, we're going to look outside the head of the individual. And if you agreed with what I was saying in the first section today, then there's no point in looking inside the mind of the individual. You've got to look outside. So the position so far is, when someone's using a sign correctly, when they're saying it moves or it doesn't move, and they're using the sign and they're applying it, they're saying true things, they're saying this is brown, this is a chair, these are some people, here is a light, here is a projector. You know, I don't say these are great insights, but these kind of basic uses of language, when someone's getting it right in these simple uses of language, that's not the outward manifestation of them having some inner state of grasping the rule. Because there isn't any, there couldn't be any such inner state. Any such inner state would have to be explained in terms of the use of the word in the context of all these particular examples. So Wittgenstein's point is, there's nothing in the mind that tells you what's getting it right or wrong in the use of the sign. There are only, and here is this notion of custom or practice that the use of the sign is located in. But this use of custom or practice, I think he doesn't mean quite the same thing as agreement. It is difficult to figure just what he means. It doesn't seem to be quite the same thing as agreement. As I said, that's very unintuitive, really, to say all there is to getting it right is agreeing with anyone else, everyone else. The negative point is that anything you might look at, if you think of what's going through your mind at any point, if you say, no, look, I don't buy this thing about locating it in a custom or practice or agreement or something like that, if you say, that can't be right, I know what I mean by the word, is this, and you've got it in your mind, what you mean by the word. If you just think about anything that could be going through your mind when you mean something by the word, well, do it now. You know, take the word cube or take the word blue, and you say, here is what I mean by the word blue, and you have some bit of flotsam or jetsam going through your mind as you say that. Well, what could it be? All it could be is some kind of interpretation of the sign, some other sign, a bit of mental stuff. An image of blue, the word blue again, some word in French. There's just going to be something going through your mind where you can ask, and now, what does that mean? Whatever it was that was going through your mind, you can ask, what did that mean? What was the significance of that? And then you need to interpret that. That already needs to be understood. It already needs to have a meaning. And how could that be? If you say, well, I understand that because I got something else in my mind that helps me interpret that, then you're going to be doing that for a while, right? Because everything that goes through your mind itself needs to be understood and defined in some way. I mean, here, in the passage I'm about to look at, he goes back over this point here about this is blue or that's blue, or how you interpret the idea of the successor of an actual number. He says, how can a rule, when you have the rule inside your mind, how could the rule show me, I think he means show me, how can a rule, how do you pronounce that? Show me? Show, yeah, let's do it show. How can a rule show me what to do at this point? Well, whatever I do is on some interpretation of it in accord with the rule. That's like saying, when I get that x plus 1, I say, look, the rule is you add 1. Then actually, I can go 97, 104, 3, 2008. I can do just anything I like. And I'll say, yeah, on some interpretation, that's in accord with the rule, add 1. Or when you're giving the systematic thing, I say, well, whatever I do in some interpretation of the way you formulated the system, that's in agreement with that. And what he says is, this is not what we ought to say. It's not that the rule in my head is showing me what to do. We ought not to say that. It's rather, any interpretation you can give, anything that's running through your mind that you use to interpret the sign, that still hangs in the air along with what it interprets. So the rule x plus 1 that might be running through your head, what does that mean? That's still hanging in the air. You no more understand what that means than you understand what the word successor means. So whatever I mean by the word successor, it can't be made to mean something by just me having the signs x plus 1 running through my head. They both need interpretation. And he says interpretation, when you define a term in some way, that doesn't determine meaning. And he says, well, in that case, anything I do, no matter what you say, you can say, yeah, that's the rule. I mean, I can say 97, 104, 3, 2000. I can say this is blue and this is blue and this is blue for anything at all. And I can say that's all in accord with the rule. Whatever I have going through my head, I can apply the word the same, whatever way I like, in the case of all these particular examples, and say, yeah, that's what I mean. Because the examples just drag the general rule along with them. The examples are what give the rule its meaning. He says, well, take the expression of a rule like a signpost. Suppose you have a signpost that says, I don't know, Dublin 104 miles. And you say, okay, well, that signpost can be getting things right or wrong. When the finger is pointing in a particular direction and saying 104 miles, the signpost can be getting things right or wrong. So what does it come to that you understand a signpost in a particular way? You know, you understand it as meaning Dublin is in this direction rather than that direction. And he says, well, what's the expression of the rule? What's the signpost got to do with my actions? What sort of connection is there between a signpost and human action? Well, maybe it's just this. You've been trained to react to the sign in a particular way, and now you do react to it. So that you want to get to Dublin, you see the sign, well, actually 104 miles is kind of long, but you go that way. You're driving along the freeway, you see the sign, you just do it. You don't have an image going through your mind, you don't have anything going through your mind at all. You just follow the sign. The sign says exit here, you do that. You just react to the sign. And he says, well, maybe isn't that just giving a causal connection? That's just saying, if I see a sign in the freeway saying yield, I just yield. That's just causal. That's not what it really means to understand the significance of a sign saying yield. The significance of the sign saying yield, that's in your head, that's in your mind. And he says, no, going by the sign is not a matter of what's in your head. It's a matter of how you react to the sign, and not just how you react to the sign, but the custom, the regular use of the signs, the way these things are typically or ordinarily or customarily used. That's what he means by custom, like a way of reacting to signposts. That's where the meaning of language comes from those customs or practices, not any kind of rule book you have in your head, not some kind of dictionary in your head. So for there to be such a thing as getting it right or wrong in your use of a sign is for there to be a custom of using the sign. And a custom of using the sign isn't a matter of mentally associating the right interpretation with the sign. Then the question is, what exactly does it come to? Custom. What does it mean? What's he talking about? That's a central exegetical question of what's going on in these passages. What does he mean by custom or practice? Agreement is really a good, concrete, definite explanation. Okay? Everyone on board with what you're saying at this point? Can you put your hand up if you think this just sounds demented? Or at any rate, not very persuasive? Good, right. Can you put your hand up if you think this does sound pretty persuasive? Okay. What about everybody else? You can't be both persuaded and not persuaded, yeah? Yeah. Right. Right. The initial baptism, yeah. Yeah. Well, suppose you take a simple thing like a pointing finger, right? If I do this, I mean, it's not like I have some special power. If anyone does that, right, there's a natural tendency to just orient over where the finger is pointing. Yeah, what about that? And even young children will do that. I mean, very young children, right? Just follow the direction of gaze. They didn't have a baptism. They didn't have somebody saying, now, when someone, your infants do not get told, now when someone points and looks over there, you've got to do that too. That's the target. That's just natural. Yeah? And in fact, when you think about it, pointing is one of the basic tools that we use in introducing language. Yeah? So there's that shared way we all react to pointing. It didn't come from anywhere. You know, it wasn't that the children have it laid down in a kind of highway code. This is what the pointing means. You use the pointing to explain other stuff. Yeah, you say this is blue, this is blue, and this is blue. Yeah? And you depend on the pointing. That's a custom. We all react to the pointing finger in pretty much the same way. You can go right or wrong. You might make a mistake about where the point is indicating. But it doesn't depend on some mental interpretation of the pointing. There's just a shared reaction to a pointing finger. Physiological. Well, physiological. I said you look at that place. Yeah, that's where right and wrong come from. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just realized the time. Okay, I was puzzled by people getting restless. Okay. We will continue with this on Monday. Okay, but that's exactly the question to be asking. Yeah. Okay.